All right, let's talk about something every project manager knows deep in their bones. Why is it that on one project you feel like you can move mountains, but on the next, you've got about as much authority as the office pot plant? Well, it all comes down to your company's organizational structure. And today, we're going to break down exactly how that structure decides who's really in charge.
Have you ever felt like this? If you've managed a project, you know this feeling. It's that sheer frustration of knowing exactly what needs to be done, but having absolutely zero power to make it happen. You're not crazy, and you're not alone. The reason is often baked right into the DNA of the company you work for.
So, to really get a grip on this, I want to tell you a story. A little saga I like to call The Battle for Dave. Picture this. 5 different project managers at 5 different companies are all in serious trouble. Their projects are on the brink of disaster, and there's only one person who can save them. Dave, the genius developer. The catch? They all need him, and they all need him like yesterday.
Okay, so let's meet the players in this little drama. We're going to follow these 5 PMs on their noble quest to get a slice of Dave's precious time. Now, they're all facing the exact same challenge, but as you're about to see, the rulebook they have to play by is wildly different depending on where they work.
So here's our lineup for today's story. First up, we've got Penny, who's in a classic functional organization. Then there's Wally, stuck in a weak matrix. We've got Brenda trying to navigate the choppy waters of a balanced matrix. Steve, who's got some serious clout in a strong matrix. And finally, Priya, who is basically queen of her castle in a projectized world.
Let's kick things off at let's call it the low-power end of the spectrum. For our first 2 managers, Penny and Wally, getting a critical resource like Dave feels less like a simple request and more like wading through treacle. It's slow, it's sticky, and it's frustrating as hell.
So Penny's world, it's that classic top-down setup. Power lives inside departments, IT, marketing, finance. The head of the department is the one who calls all the shots. And the project manager? If you're even called that, you're really just a project coordinator. You're an influencer, a chaser, a professional asker of favors.
So, for Penny to get Dave, oh man, it is a total bureaucratic nightmare. She can't just walk over and talk to Dave. No. She has to go through his functional manager, whose main priority is, you guessed it, departmental work, not Penny's project. So she emails, she waits, she follows up. Then she has to go to her manager, who has a little chat with Dave's manager. The result? Her project is still sinking, and there is absolutely no sign of Dave. Okay, let's move on. Meet Wally. He's in what's called a weak matrix. Now, on paper, this is a tiny step up from where Penny is, because his role as a project coordinator is at least formally recognized across different departments. But, and this is a big but, don't let that fool you. They put the word weak in the name for a very good reason.
And yeah, this quote pretty much sums up Wally's life. The functional manager still holds all the power, all the keys to the kingdom. Wally's job is to coordinate and expedite. You know what that really means? He can keep track of things and politely remind people of deadlines. He has no real authority. He can't tell Dave what to do. He can only ask Dave's boss very, very nicely.
Okay, now we're stepping into the really interesting and sometimes kind of messy world of the matrix organization. This is where things get complicated because every team member, including our hero, Dave, has at least 2 bosses. It's a constant dance, a 2-boss tango of negotiation, and you have to be very, very careful not to step on anyone's toes.
So our next PM, Brenda, she's living in what's called a balanced matrix. And just like the name suggests, power is supposed to be shared, split right down the middle between her, the project manager, and Dave's functional manager. She's not just a coordinator, but she can't just give orders either. Her entire professional life is one long, continuous negotiation.
And this, right here, is the million-dollar question for Brenda, isn't it? If she says Dave is desperately needed for her project, but his department head says he's needed for some other critical task, what happens? Who wins? The answer is nobody at first. It often just becomes a stalemate, sparking power struggles and endless meetings until somebody gives in. It's a very tricky dance.
But what happens if we just tilt that balance of power a little bit? Well, welcome to the world of Steve, our project manager in a strong matrix. In this setup, you've still got the 2 bosses, but it is crystal clear who has the final say when it comes to the project. And spoiler alert, it's not the functional manager.
See, the big difference here is that Steve has actual clout. He controls the money. He's got a huge say in directing the team's work. And when there's a disagreement, project priorities win out. So when Steve needs Dave, it's a much more straightforward conversation. The functional manager is there to provide the resource, not to argue about it. It's pretty simple. Steve gets Dave.
And finally, we get to the top of the food chain, the place where the project isn't just one important thing, it's everything. This is a world that's literally built from the ground up to get projects done, and our final PM, Priya, is the undisputed monarch of her domain.
This is Priya's world, a projectized organization. Here, there are no real permanent functional departments like IT or marketing. The whole company is basically structured around individual projects. Teams get put together for a project and they report to one person, and one person only, the project manager.
So, Priya's epic quest for Dave, what does that look like? Well, it's not much of a quest, really. Dave is on her team. He reports directly to her, so she just assigns him the work. That's it. End of story. The hardest part of her day is probably deciding what kind of coffee to get.
Okay, so we've seen Penny's pain, Wally's waiting game, Brenda's bargaining, Steve's success, and Priya's peaceful coffee break. What's the big takeaway from all of this? It's simple, but it's absolutely crucial. You have to know the rules of the playground you're in. Your entire strategy for getting anything done depends on it.
And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? You can literally see the project manager's authority climbing from almost zero in a functional org, through all the different flavors of the matrix, all the way up to nearly total control in a projectized world. This is the spectrum of power you're operating on. Okay, think of this table as your ultimate cheat sheet, your survival guide, really. It shows you the whole picture, the structure, how much power you have, the big advantages and disadvantages, and most importantly, it connects it all back to our 5 heroes. So the next time you're in a tough spot, you can ask yourself, am I playing Penny's game, Brenda's game, or Priya's game right now? Now, of course, the real world is messy, right? It's not always this clean cut. A lot of big companies are actually a hybrid or a composite of these structures. They might spin up a fully projectized team for a super critical project, like Priya's, but handle routine updates in a functional way, like Penny's. The secret is knowing which game you're playing on this particular project. And just remember this magic number, 2. In any kind of matrix organization, your Dave has at least 2 bosses. Figuring out who they are, what their priorities are, and how you can work with both of them, that's the key to surviving and thriving in that environment.
Which, brings us to the most important question of the day. Have a think about your own job. How do you get resources? How do decisions really get made? How much actual authority do you have? Which one of these playgrounds best describes your world? Are you a Penny, a Steve, a Brenda? Because at the end of the day, if you try to act like Priya and give direct orders when you're really Penny with nothing but influence, well, that's a recipe for a whole lot of frustration. Understanding your org structure isn't just boring theory. It's the key to your strategy, your sanity, and ultimately, your project success.